Imagine if you're in a relationship with a painter and he says, would you like a fruit bowl? And you're into fruits. You love most fruit. And then what the painter produces is maybe something like this. Is this a fruit bowl? I don't think so. And sexuality, the way that mainstream culture represents it, is taking a fruit salad, a fruit bowl, and then trying to change it into something like this. But there's a lot that is left to be lacking when we're expecting a fruit bowl and all we get is a banana. And nothing against bananas, but it's time to explore alternatives if we want to really amplify our partner's pleasure and center their bodies and their desire. We can't keep presenting the same old painting and expecting a better result if it's not working, if they don't seem interested. That in and of itself is a sign that something is not aligned. So what do? We need to have a check-in to see where things are, to see how we're feeling, and to ask serious questions about what our partners want, what they find pleasurable, these types of things. And if we're not able to have these conversations openly and honestly, I have to question what the quality is of communication, of trust, of safety, which that foundation is essential for building meaningful, lasting pleasure, especially if we are survivors, which I am a survivor, and I recognize that there are so many of us all around, in every place, in every identity, especially women, unfortunately. And if we want to prioritize the safety and pleasure for survivors, we need to slow down. We need to be proactive about communication, about being curious and asking questions, and really getting to know somebody before rushing into something and assuming that things are okay without doing the ground preparation that is essential for building emotional intimacy, building trust, safety. Because everybody needs that to feel safe, to feel pleasure. Maybe not everybody, but my experience of myself as a survivor and of relating to other folks is that safety and slowing down and actually getting to know somebody are essential to building emotional and physical intimacy in a way that is pleasurable and satisfying for everybody involved. And that is my hope. I'm not here with the intention of helping people find a one-night stand or a hookup. And there's nothing wrong with people who want that or seek that, but that doesn't interest me. And my experience of one-night stands and hookups personally is that they're quite unsatisfying and actually can sometimes be quite damaging when we are sharing our bodies, sharing our trust and our energy with somebody that we likely don't know very well. We may not know their STI status, we may not know their HIV status, and we may not be ready to have a conversation about these types of topics. And then the consequences of having a one-night stand could be lifelong consequences, including having a baby is a lifelong consequence if that baby lives to be an adult. And so I would encourage us to slow down, to notice the little things, and ask lots of questions, and go on dates, go for walks, go to the movies, and see what the other person thinks of taking the scenic journey as opposed to going from 0 to 100 in one night, which might work for some people, but I think for a lot of us can be extremely draining and unsatisfying, and sometimes leave us emotionally or physically unwell. And with COVID as well, why not get to know each other at a distance and really have those heart-to-hearts before we share our bodies with somebody. I know people that were able to build serious long-term relationships during COVID because we took that time to really build that trust and get to know somebody. And sometimes we still get burned. That happened to me, where I thought that there was this foundation of trust and safety. And then over time, it turned out that that was temporary and that I couldn't rely on the person to keep their word. And even things like gifts that I've been given were taken back, and things that were promised were not realized. And if we find ourselves in a relationship with somebody who is consistently inconsistent, I would be very cautious around that behavior and probably encourage people to re-examine if that relationship is aligned with your needs and wants and long-term wellness. Because for me, I gave everything that I could, and I thought that we were going to get married. I've never been married. I thought that we were going to make a life together, and ultimately I felt quite used for my body And I wish that I had left that relationship much sooner. And I don't want anybody to feel like we're used for our bodies, taken advantage of. And sometimes people don't show their true selves until later on in a relationship. There's that honeymoon period at the beginning. And so it can take years before some patterns really come to the surface. And I would encourage us to be slow and intentional and cautious when trusting a new person and taking things one day at a time, one moment at a time, without jumping in head first when we don't know how deep the water goes. Was that too many metaphors? Metaphors. Okay. What do you think? How do you build safety? How do you build trust? How do you honor your pleasure and needs as well as your partner's? That is a skill that is essential for building a lasting relationship that is satisfying for everybody involved. It's starting to rain. I should probably protect the phone. Although actually, I might have a creative way that I might not need to do that, and it's only raining lightly. Are you feeling thirsty? I'm feeling thirsty. Also, would you like to do a pleasure practice with me? Do you want to get a snack? I'll give you a minute to go get a snack if you like. I have dark chocolate, and I was thinking that we could savor something on our tongues together if we want to. For me, chocolate is my favorite delicious texture, flavor. Yeah, I put it in my mouth. And if you have something, you can break it up into a couple pieces if you like, or do whatever feels good for you. I've got, I believe, 4 small pieces of chocolate, and I'm letting it melt on my tongue. I'm really trying to be expansive with the sensational experience that can be had with this piece of chocolate. Intentionally not chewing it, letting it have some sort of a slow burn. It's on the roof of my mouth, and I'm tickling it with my tongue, slowly, softly, as it very slowly melts onto the roof of my mouth and onto my tongue. So delicious. There's nothing like chocolate. And preferably chocolate that is ethical and not harvested with problematic labor practices and environmental practices. If possible. Or I suppose white chocolate uses so little cocoa that the chocolate practice isn't as significant as the sugar practices. I don't know much about the ethics of growing and harvesting sugar. Hopefully it's better than chocolate. But I don't know. It's still melting in my tongue. While I was talking about that, I wasn't noticing the sensual experience of chocolate on my tongue. I just swallowed it. Now there's just the aftertaste. Goodbye, chocolate. Were you able to savor your food? Do you want to try again? Let's see if we can attempt. Where is it? Attempt to savor this for as long as we can. I think this is a bigger piece for me. And really derive a deep awareness of the chocolate, of the melting, of the savoring, of the celebrating our taste buds, because as we get older, we lose our taste buds and they stop regenerating as much as we age. So the taste buds that we have right now are probably the most taste buds that we will have, because in the future we will have less and less and less. When my grandmother was over 100, I think she could only taste salt, and she wasn't even allowed salt, so she would somehow smuggle it in and sneak it into her food, and then I think her ankles would swell up dramatically because she wasn't supposed to be having any salt. But somehow she was able to survive sneaking salt into her diet in significant amounts. And she lived to be extremely old and to break many rules, which I'm grateful that she lived such a great long life. But if we still have enough taste buds that we can taste chocolate, we can taste non-salty foods, this may be temporary. Our taste buds may not last as long as we imagine they will, or as intensely as they do right now. Today can be our day to savor chocolate. I'm gonna break this up into two, because why not essentially double the pleasure if we can? Why not savor chocolate and be intentional about it and really feel it on our tongues? That's how I want to eat chocolate. I don't want to eat chocolate and think about all the messed up stuff that's happening in the world, which is, I guess, what we might tend to do, because the world is on fire and things are extremely messed up in so many different ways. And we do need to take that seriously and to do our part to make this world a better place. And my expertise is on our relationships with ourselves, on our relationships with our bodies, with our pleasure, and with each other's bodies and each other's pleasure. And chocolate is one way, unless if you're allergic, to feel pleasure in our mouths, on our tongues, melting, liquefying moment by moment, savoring. That experience in our mouths, paying attention to it, making the most of this experience. Oh, are you thirsty? This is my reusable bottle. I know it doesn't look reusable, but I'm reusing it. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were talking about how the world is messed up. And it is. And how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to the people that are close to us, and how we relate to people who are distant from us, I think says a lot about us. How we treat ourselves may say a lot about how other people have treated us. I am a survivor. I've been treated poorly. I've been neglected by people that I trusted with my love and with my life. And that led to me treating myself poorly. That led to me not honoring my own needs, my own boundaries, my own body and pleasure. And it's taken years of work to get to this place where I recognize how toxic my past relationships have been, and how through those relationships I changed how I related to myself. I changed how I treated myself. And I became my own worst critic. And it's taken years of practice to challenge those patterns that I picked up from the people that I thought loved me, but who were actually not treating me well. And now when I see that I'm not treating myself well, I notice it, and I gently invite myself to try alternative ways to treat myself, to recognize the awesome parts of myself, to recognize how far I've come from those neglectful relationships, to be single and to appreciate myself in a way that I had taken myself for granted while I was in those relationships. I largely ignored my relationship with myself, which is something that I would not encourage anybody to do. So what is the point that I'm trying to make? The way that we treat ourselves may be a reflection of how people have treated us in the past. But we don't need to continue that into the future. Just because other people treated us like crap does not mean that we need to treat ourselves like crap. Now can be a time where we change how we relate to ourselves. We can be intentional about how we interact with our body, with our heart, with our love. And I've struggled with love because I feel this potential for abundant love, and having no one to share it with in my life in this moment feels, on some level, extremely lonely. I yearn for a life partner and for anchor partners to share love and life. And I am still on that journey of finding my chosen family, of finding the people that understand and appreciate all the many different parts of who I am. And in the meantime, while I keep my heart open to this journey of finding my chosen family, I recognize that there are so many other folks who are also yearning for connection, for love, for pleasure, for safety, for care, for support. So why not share this love energy with you? Because it has to go somewhere, and I don't know where else to put it. I try to put some of it into myself, but I have this pattern of trying to put my love energy into relationships. And right now, I suppose this is the closest thing that I have to a partnership, which is sometimes confusing, but to me this feels like a relationship. To me this feels like we're intentionally being present together and sharing our energy together and doing our best to make space for all of the many different parts of ourselves and each other, where we don't need to hide, we don't need to perform or put on a show, where we can just be. And I want to live in a world where all of us, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, no matter where we live, can be safe to just be, to live, to love, without trying to overanalyze what other people will think about this or that. And if we've been heavily criticized, if we've been treated harshly or neglected in the past, we may find ourselves repeating those patterns in our relationships with ourselves. And if you find yourself doing that, I encourage you to try and empathize with yourself and see all the awesome aspects of who you are and what you have to contribute. And that you deserve respect and care and safety and support, no matter what other people have said or done. We all have a right to safety, respect, dignity. And I realize that in this world, so many of us are not having our basic needs met, are not having our human rights taken seriously. And I hope that together we can do our part to speak up in alignment with our values, in alignment with the basic human rights and needs for people who are like us, for people who are not like us. We all need to survive. We all need to be safe. And I hope that over time, this world will become a safer place for all of us to be who we are without fearing the intense oppression and hatred that are rampant online and in real life. And it is that intense criticism that keeps me wearing these glasses and being cautious about my privacy as well as the privacy of people in my life, because people can be so mean and so cruel, and it is so disturbing that speaking about love, speaking about pleasure, about safety, about human rights, that people will respond to these with hostility, with aggression, that talking about our lovability, about our sacredness, about our responsibilities to each other is something that will be responded to with aggression. That is extremely messed up. And I hope that over time, more and more people can find a way to live with more love and less hate and oppression. And I wonder if, in some instances, those of us who find ourselves not knowing where to direct loving energy and attention and affection towards, if we don't know how to give it to ourselves because of our own stuff and we don't know where to put it, if having something like a plushie or a dog or a cat can be a way that we can practice affection, that we can practice sharing positive energy and care, affectionate touch. Because that is one of the practices that I've done, is to share care with someone like this that can receive it, that doesn't respond with anger, doesn't respond with jealousy, with possessiveness, with toxicity. This bear has so much capacity for our love, and if you want, you can direct some of your loving energy towards this bear if you don't know where to put it. And we can share this love and care. Because when we don't know what to do with it, when we don't know where to put it, I wonder if sometimes that love and care can turn into something toxic, into something angry, frustrated, hostile. because we long so much for connection. And we are so deeply disconnected in this moment. It might feel as if it's organic to hate, to put people down, to try and fight. But I don't want to fight. I'm not much of a fighter. I'm all about love, to quote Bell Hooks, who was one of my role models. And in that spirit, oh, is this the last? I think this is the last chocolate. In that spirit, I would like to invite you, if you would like to join me. Oh, look what I just did. Split it in half. Now there can be even more of that pleasurable sensation of chocolate melting on the tongue. Yes. Whenever I put chocolate in my mouth, my instinct is to chew it, to crush it with my teeth, and swallow it quickly. But when I do that, I miss out on so much pleasure potential on my tongue. And I think that could be a metaphor for how a lot of people approach sex, especially if people take a banana mindset of sexuality, which can be quite rushed and maybe over before our partners really experience a significant amount of pleasure. So why not practice being expansive with our pleasure, with savoring the little things, like a kiss that leads to a kiss, that doesn't need to lead anywhere else except for some sort of warm, fuzzy feeling of intimacy without assuming that it will escalate into something else. How about we savor that kiss without assuming that it means X, Y, and Z? Especially if we haven't talked about what X, Y, and Z might mean for us, or if we even do X, Y, and Z. Because I might never do X, Y, and Z. Or X, Y, and Z. There you go. Language is so tricky. Your Z might be my Z, or you might not even speak English. You might not use the same alphabet as me, let alone pronounce the letters in the same ways. There's so many assumptions that we make every day without realizing it and imagining how it might be received for the other person. This is the last of the chocolate. Should I split it in half? I feel tempted to. Are you going to? We don't need to do the same thing. I'm just gonna savor this. And really try and pay attention to that experience of savoring on my tongue. it's hard to stay focused on the pleasure. Sometimes our minds will get caught up in other things. And then we can practice bringing our attention back to the pleasure. Gently reminding ourselves to savor without being too hard on ourselves when we get caught off track. Whew. Are you feeling thirsty? Are you hydrated? Whew. It's so important to be hydrated. If you haven't been drinking water, that might be a way to experience a little bit more pleasure. I think a lot of women experience pleasure more intensely when there's adequate hydration. I'm not sure about if the science applies to men as well, but definitely don't want to be dehydrated. Our bodies might faint, especially in a hot tub. I do not encourage it. And the other day, I did get dehydrated to the point where I think I did faint. Yeah. But fortunately, I regained consciousness very quickly and did not hurt myself or the filming equipment. Yeah. But it was a close call. I wish that I had somebody here as my lifeguard, but it's just me. But maybe in 5 years, I will have a partner that will be excited about supporting my safety and my experience of sitting in a hot water source for an extended period of time and the risks that come along with that. Yeah. I would not encourage other people to do this. It is risky. And we all do take risks every day. Even stepping out of our homes is a risk. Crossing the street. Even going to the bank. Yeah. Even doing online baking, actually, is a risk because there are so many threats to our safety online and in person. Whew. Wow. I wanted to end this on a positive note. Okay. Here will be my positive note. Let us end this by attempting to share love with ourselves, with the bear, with nature, the universe, spirit, whatever you would like to do. if any of these, or all of them. Thank you to this bear for receiving my love and possibly your love as well. Thank you to the Wi-Fi for allowing us to connect and witness each other in this moment, holding social, emotional space. To this bee for greeting us and then giving us our space. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To you. Oh, the bee is back. Okay. Thank you to you for holding this space with me, for being a part of this, because you are a very important part of this, and I couldn't do this without you. Okay. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate you. And ooh, I'm gonna say I love you, but if you don't want to hear it, turn off the video. I love you.